Welcome back. Now that we have seen the Lindisfarne Gospels as a case study of the form insular art takes during this period, we turn now to a variety of other texts, many of whom show a very strong emphasis on the natural world. Take for example the Chi Rho page of the Book of Kells. It may come as no surprise that, like the Chi Rho page of the Lindisfarne Gospels, it also encompasses all of the paradoxes of Celtic Christianity. Let us take a closer look at the lower left-hand portion of this image. Within this section we see various stylized animals, such as cats, mice, an otter, and salmon. Can you locate them? Aside from the visual arts, we see this trope present as well. For example, within the poem Pangur Bán. This poem was written within the margins of a book which contains both hymns and grammar lessons. Pangur Bán was written in the early 9th century. The poem reads as follows. Myself and White Pangur are each at his own trade. He has his mind on hunting. My mind is on my own task. Better than any frame I prefer peace within my book, pursuing knowledge. White Pangur does not envy me. He loves his own childish trade. A tale without boredom when we are at home alone. We have interminable fun, something on which to exercise our skill. Sometime, after desperate battles, a mouse is caught in his net. As for me, there falls in my net some difficult law hard to comprehend. He points his clear bright eye against a wall. I point my own clear one. Feeble as it is, against the power of knowledge. He is happy, and darts around when a mouse sticks in his sharp claw. And I am happy in understanding some dear difficult problem. However long we are like that, neither disturbs the other. Each of us loves his trade and enjoys it all alone. The job he does every day is the one for which he is fit. I am competent at my own job, bringing darkness to light. This poem demonstrates clearly the contrast yet unity between the ascetical practices and the natural world. Another example of insular art is an Anglo-Saxon book, specifically the St. Cuthbert Gospel, as seen here. This Gospel was found within St. Cuthbert's coffin. It is believed to originate from the 7th century and contains within it the Gospel of John. Within various academic texts, it will be referred to as the Stonyhurst Gospel. Finally, we come to the numerous retellings of the voyage of Brendan. These stories tell of St. Brendan of Clonfert, who flourished in the 6th century, at least according to the Annals of Ulster. He founded a monastery at Clonfert and traveled to Iona. He partook in a legendary voyage at age 70 with a number of friends and sailed westward in hopes to find the promised land of the saints. This story was recorded within the Navigatio Sancti Bernardi Abbatis, which was written around the year 900. This is an example of a historical person who was given a Christian hagiographical treatment, which retains traces of pre-Christian oral legends, which had previously been recorded and preserved by Christian monks. Although it should be noted that perhaps this was based on an actual memory of a historical voyage. The Voyage of Brendan is a Christianized Imran, or an Irish voyage tale, where a hero journeys on a quest to the other world in the West, and focuses specifically on the journey. Compare this with the earlier Ectra, or adventure tale, which focuses specifically on the destination. The narrative records that Abbot St. Brendan was encouraged by fellow abbots to visit the promised land of the saints. For this reason, he embarks on a cyclical voyage of 7 years, marked by return to locations at key points in the liturgical year. There he stops to celebrate the liturgy. The question which arises here is this in fact a slightly modified form of the Peregrinatio? Although Brendan is leaving his homeland, he does return to the same points. Compare this narrative with the voyage of Bran from the 8th century, whose roots lie in older oral pre-Christian Irish tales. In this voyage, a fairy woman gives the hero Bran a silver branch and tells him about the land of Everyoung. Comparable as well is that a company of men journey to a series of islands and encounter the old Celtic sea god. Although he does not return to the same islands, Bran eventually returns to Ireland and finds that ages have passed and his men die upon landing. There are certainly some similarities between the two stories. There are also very Christian elements of the story of St. Brendan. For example, the companions in St. Brendan's boat also recall a passage from Matthew 8, where Jesus calms the storm. Also, his pattern of sailing is a liturgical round of prayers, fasting, and celebration. The tale of St. Brendan is a tale of spiritual strengthening and reorientation. Along his way, he and his companions encounter demons, or dangers, which all pass thanks to God's grace and protection. It should also be noted that the voyage of St. Brendan begins with fasting as preparation for the journey. Therefore, asceticism as a preparation for the journey towards faith and celebration. As mentioned previously, there are a series of islands which are visited in the voyage of Brendan. For example, he visits the island of Sheep during Holy Week, which is the week immediately preceding Easter, of Jasconius, the giant fish, for the Easter celebration itself, the island of the birds, which he sings the psalms, which were present within daily monastic prayer, the island of the monks, for the Christmas celebration. During this voyage, he encounters fantastical creatures and visions. He also encounters humans, living both at their worst and at their best. For example, he meets Judas the betrayer, the individual who, in the Gospels, betrayed Jesus to the Romans, and the hermit Paul of Thebes, who is fed by an otter, symbolic of the Eucharist. After 7 years of visiting the island of the saints, Brendan returns home, where he dies. This signifies the final pilgrimage or peregrinatio. Here are a few examples of the voyage of St. Brendan. Seen here is a 15th century manuscript. We see St. Brendan in the middle with his abbot's crook, along with his companions. Another example is this stained glass window. Remember that when saints are depicted, they are often depicted with symbolic elements of their importance. In this instance, note the water, and he is depicted within a boat. We conclude this tutorial with an image of St. Brendan by Edward Reginald Frampton. This painting depicts St. Brendan coming into contact with Judas the betrayer. This draws specifically from the journey of St. Brendan. He meets Judas, who, for a good act during his lifetime, is allowed 1 hour's release from hell each Christmas. Within all of the examples in this section, we see the richness that Celtic Christianity has to offer. With that, we come to the end of part 3. Join me next week when we will be taking a look at the High Crosses of Ireland. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.